Hi, I'm back for another Weird Weapons of Matt Easton. But this thing, it is a collapsible, foldable staff weapon. Absolutely bonkers. Or is it? Hi, it's Todd from Todd's Workshop and Todd Cutler here, and I'm back with Matt Easton, Schola Gladiatoria.
Hi guys.
And I'm at Matt and Lucy Easton's fight camp, which is this amazing thing where people come and fight. So Matt, give us a couple of seconds.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So about 250 people. I think it's probably the biggest HEMA event in the UK. That's Historical European Martial Arts. We've got competitions, loads of classes. We've got like 40 instructors. All sorts of stuff from the ancient era through medieval, Renaissance, all the way to the modern era. Even stuff like pugilism and wrestling and MMA, all kinds of stuff. So lots of martial arts, mostly European. Got a little bit of Indian martial arts, a little bit of Japanese martial arts as well, and all sorts of weapons at play. We've just finished the first full day here, so everything's winding down. There's just a few people left sparring.
So 3 days of this stuff. So if this is your thing, I don't care if you live in a different country, fly over, do it. Anyway, August. So why we're really here is weird weapons. So it's a simple deal. I find something that intrigues me, something unusual from the past, medieval mostly, bit of Renaissance, and I make it and I present it to Matt and he has no idea. And so today, he has no idea what is in this bag. Now what I would say is be a little bit careful. Okay. But not very careful. Put your hand in gingerly, but once you're down there, you'll find the nasty bits.
Oh, God.
Grab the bag, do it yourself, and...
It's like that scene in Flash Gordon.
Oh. No, don't look yet.
Oh, okay, I won't look. Right, okay, I'm holding it.
Right, now.
Okay. Can I look yet?
You can look, but I'd love your guesses without looking.
Gosh. So it's got a hinge without looking. It's got a hinge and it's got blades of some kind. I have no idea what... It feels like it's some kind of umbrella with blades on it.
Yeah, very close. So go on, open your eyes and have a look.
I still don't know what that is.
Should I give you a demo?
Yeah.
This is possibly one of the nuttiest things that I've come across. So I was flicking through a book, Armi Bianchi Italienne, do you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I was flicking through that and I saw this. And the one in the book is definitely a lot fancier, but it's not just one. If you go digging on the net, you will find quite a few.
So it's a folding winged spear?
Yeah. So
that is absolutely mad.
It is absolutely mad, and I would argue utterly pointless.
What's it? Well, like, why would you want to fold it up?
Well, this is why I'm here, Matt. So...
Oh, so I mean, now it makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
Well, you know, it's a form of wing spear, I guess a corsac or a rancer or something like that. Spetum.
I don't know.
It's a spetum, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, that makes sense as a weapon, but this stuff does get in the way a bit.
Well, also the weight.
I think the weight's all right. Yeah. So it's, I think it would be called a spetum. I'm trying to remember what the Italian name is for it. Spiedo?
Yes.
Maybe
I
Spiedo.
think so.
Yeah, Spiedo. I think Manciolino talks about that in his 1531 manual. But, like, why would...
Why?
Why?
Just why?
For ease of storage and transportation, I guess. But yeah, the funny thing is, so the weight, it is quite heavy.
Yeah.
But it's about the weight of a poleaxe. So it's not crazy. It's not crazy heavy. I mean, you can certainly move that around fairly well. It doesn't have any form of spike on the back end, does it?
Well, this is where I have to admit that the book has pictures of the head because that's particularly interesting.
Yeah.
There's one picture of a central joint.
Okay.
And there's nothing below that. So I don't know what's going on at the back end.
So one thing I would say is usually with these weapons, you want to be able to slide them through a hand and change hands fairly easily. And having that in the middle is a bit of an obstruction. But that being said, I mean, you can still do it, changing sides, which obviously sometimes you want to be able to do in using. Generally speaking, with weapons that you're going to give a blow or a cut with, you tend to be right hand forward and tend to have it on this side, whereas most people naturally want to have spears and thrusting with on that side. It just seemed to be a sort of biomechanically natural thing that most people do. If you tell them to poke, they do it that way. If you tell them to hit, they tend to switch to that way.
Right.
Having said that, treatises of the time do in fact show spears being held either way around for various reasons. Sometimes you might want to come around shields or whatever. And yeah, we do occasionally see poleaxes used the other way around as well. But yeah, essentially it's primarily a thrusting weapon, isn't it? But you've got these blades here. And I think most people would look at those and think of the offensive uses for them, but they're very good against other pole weapons. So one of the problems with spears is it's very easy for you to both just stab each other. Whereas when you've got these lateral projections, you can actually interpose them in the incoming spear, push it off to the side, and then get the person with the point. So all forms of winged spear, partisan, spetum, trident, all of these sort of things, they work really, really well. But this is relatively short.
Well, that again is the length of... So I've found three examples down.
Yeah.
There's two in Army Bianchi Italienne. Both of them, I think, were made in Milan.
Okay.
From memory, and they're within about 2 centimetres of each other, which is what this is. It's just over 2. It's about 2 metres 6, something like that. And then there's another one which I think is or was in the Higgins. I think Higgins is gone now.
Yeah.
But it basically exactly the same.
Right.
So I'll tell you exactly the story of what's going on here.
Yeah.
So 2 days ago, I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to Mats this weekend. I should do a weird weapon. So I had a very busy Wednesday.
You made this in 2 days?
Yeah, very busy Wednesday,
Wow.
Thursday. So there have been some compromises. So if we have a look at this. So effectively this joint here screws together. Well, there's nothing wrong with screws. That's absolutely fine. You know, period appropriate and so on.
It's a bit scary when you...
It's a little bit scary. But you can't see it in the book. But there is something going on in here. And my guess, actually, is that the thing unfolds and the wings are closed. And I think that what happens is it unfolds, and as you unfold it, they deploy. And you literally just flick it up and it locks.
So it might be sprung, there might be a spring.
And there's 2 funny little pins that stick out each side. You know, we'll put the picture up on screen so we can see it. But there's 2 pins each side that stick out. That I thought, when I first saw it, you pulled those pins out and it did something. I think actually they're push pins, and they push a catch in, and that's what locks it. So I suspect, because you know, you can see from this object it is absolutely covered in engraving and gilding and everything else.
Right.
Obviously 2 days I couldn't do that. It has so much money and status involved in the piece that I think that it must just be a demonstration of how amazing the armourer was. And it really, I'd be surprised if it didn't auto-deploy when you did that. And locked into place. And then these 2 little pins go in. And interestingly, both examples in that book have 2 little pokey out pins that look really vulnerable. And you could do it differently, but they've chosen against all choices to do that. The centre joint, I have 1 picture of the centre joint from that side. And so again, I can tell nothing about what's going on the other. So I did something that was going to be doable in 2 days for, you know, our little video.
I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And you know, pole arms as a whole don't get enough attention, I think. Shafted weapons, hafted weapons, whatever you want to call them, are, you know, they're main weapons. If you're not shooting a crossbow or a bow or a gun, then you're most of the time going to have some kind of polearm as your main weapon. And could this have been, I'm trying to think what context it could fit into. Perhaps for carrying on board or in something, a carriage or a ship or somewhere where storage space is important.
Storage space possibly, or then getting it out of stores. So a ship is an interesting idea actually, that you're getting long things through small doorways and low decks actually is difficult. But that all said, the 3 items I've seen like this, all of Italian manufacture, the 3 items I've seen are so high status, frankly, that's not your problem. You know, if you want your high status polearm delivered to your door, it will be there. So why is it folding? And I come down to the very simple thing that I've got one, you haven't. I can see no reason, because also, you know, let's face it, if it has got an auto-deployment mechanism on it, which I think it does, those can fail. and now suddenly the thing's not working in the way it should be working. You can have a joint here that is never going to be as strong as a wooden pole, so that's already a risk. You've got a joint here that's not going to be as strong as a proper, decent, welded thing. You have more mass than you need because you've got all this mechanism and heavy joints. The whole thing is just utterly pointless and, dare I say it, weird.
So it is 100% weird, there's no question about that. But I'm desperately thinking of practical reasons for it to exist. I feel like it's so much effort has gone into it.
Yeah.
Is it really just a vanity project? Is it just for showing off?
I don't know. I don't know. But I mean,
in a modern world, it works fantastic. I mean, if we were in a situation where you wanted to travel around with a pole arm in your car, it makes perfect sense because it will fit in the back of your car. And at the drop of a hat, you can spring out of your car and deploy your pole arm, you know. I'm not saying you do that.
Oh, let's get there. There we go. Hi. I've interrupted today's film for another Todd Cutler related interesting fact. And today we have the Knight's Rondel. 15th century piece. But what's really weird about these is small rondel daggers like this, you often see in manuscripts hung upside down at an angle. Totally weird, but there you are. This one hangs the right way up, and this and loads of similar pieces available on toddcutler.com. Anyway, back to the film.
And it's also got the aesthetic of lots of poleaxes of the period. You know, the everything about it, from the decoration to the way that the head is constructed, and you know, poleaxes are sort of constructed of almost unnecessarily complicated constructions sometimes, and there's definitely showing off involved in poleaxe design, and I think it's part of that tradition.
But it's things like that, you know, I could have just put a knurled nut on it, but that's not what they would have done. So, you know, I've made it look like flower petals with a little indented centre and things, because that's what they do. So the bottom line is,
I love it.
And it's not exactly pocket size, but you know, it's unobtrusive. So maybe that's the answer. It's when you're doing your.
And I've got to say, there's no question that is not what I expected to come out of that bag at all. I mean, I never would have thought there was a pole arm in there.
Yeah.
So
well, maybe that's it. It's when you. Well, okay, yeah, I've got it. So all of those Hollywood moments where the hero's sneaking in with his medieval equivalent of a violin case, and he's got these in it.
Yeah, and all those video games where people, when they want to get their sword out, they're, what do I do with the pole arm? I mysteriously wear it on my back and it just hangs there. They need one of these now, and they can slip it into a little holster, and there we go. We've got back-mounted, back-scabbard pole arm.
But I think it is officially bonkers. And actually, for that matter, if anybody actually genuinely knows, and I don't just mean guesses, because we've all got a guess, but genuinely knows why they made these things fold up, please.
It's not impossible that it's mentioned in some text, that a folding pole arm is mentioned in some text that we don't know about.
Well, yeah, but, you know, Talhofer, for instance, there's certainly stuff in his treatise, because I think he was a little bit like Leonardo da Vinci, that he used his books as almost like doodle pads for his mind, you know? And there's a bollock dagger I can think of which has a screw-off blade, so you can put different blades on it. There's another poleaxe where he was obviously fixated with this idea, and you had a single shaft and you could bolt different things onto the head. So that's very much in Talhofer's world, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely, yeah.
But dated sort of 1550-ish, so a long time later. But
this is?
Yes.
Right, interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, but I think, isn't this the weirdest weapon that we've so far looked at?
Yeah.
I can't think of any weapon which is weirder than this.
It's going to take a while to get odder.
But maybe the viewers know of an even weirder one. I love it though.
Good.
Absolutely love it.
Okay, good. So it's going to sit on the shelf getting dusty like all the other weird weapons, but I'll sell them one day.
You can make a book of weird weapons at some point. The treatise of weird weapons.
Yeah. That we don't understand, because actually that has been a recurrent theme of all of these. Is we've all gone, yeah, great, wonderful. Why?
Yeah.
Except the flail.
Because they could, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah. But it's like that bike chain mace, you know. It's like
yeah, that was pretty weird actually. That's up there, isn't it? But yeah, I absolutely love it, and I actually think, you know, it could definitely work as a weapon. Given the length and given the weight, I think it fits more into the realm of poleaxes rather than of typical spears. But yeah, for someone in armour to use as a close combat weapon, I think it's a good practical weapon, so long as it holds together and doesn't break.
Well, I mean, that would always have to be a consideration.
Yeah.
You know, so frankly, you're going to go in, and the money that was clearly paid for these things, I would put money on it that pre-gilding, pre-engraving, they beat the hell out of it to find out and then cleaned up.
Yeah, but the other thing to remember, of course, is someone with one of these, this wouldn't be their sole weapon. So they'd probably have a sword and a dagger as backup. So to be honest, if you go completely wailing in with this and it does snap, well, you close in, pull your sword out, and carry on. You know, so
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. And we know that typical normal constructed poleaxes broke. I mean, there's pictures of them broken on the ground in loads of manuscripts. So maybe we're looking at this too much from a 21st century view, and you think of these things as to an extent disposable, or they're there to be used until they break, and then you pull out the next weapon and carry on. So,
well, it's interesting, we were having exactly that conversation earlier on about swords, as it happens.
Yeah.
That you take a medieval sword and you do the abuse tests that people do now, and they just fail because they're not. That's not what they're for.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's the same with these sort of things. And it is the uncomfortable truth is that somebody spends. I'll sell this one day, and somebody will spend a lot of money on this.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If they go around hitting things, they want it to last a long time. But that's not necessarily true of the time.
No, and if you're rich enough in the 16th century to afford this, you can afford perhaps multiples of them, replacements to get it fixed, whatever. You don't care if it breaks.
No.
You've got other weapons,
Yeah,
you can buy another one, there we go.
It's like white sword belts. There is nothing worse than a white sword belt to look after. Yet they were a thing.
Yeah.
But it's fine because then they got a servant to clean it. Now,
absolutely.
But
Fantastic. What a thing.
what a thing indeed. I think totally pointless. Matt thinks
I think it's
mostly
fantastic.
pointless.
I absolutely love it. And this is one of my favourite weird weapons that I've ever seen.
We ended the filming and then we had another thought. Well, I didn't, but Matt did.
So, completely out of the left field, but it's vaguely possible that maybe this is something for someone to carry on horseback. Not as a primary weapon, because presumably they'd have a lance or whatever on horseback, but maybe as their foot combat weapon. So we sometimes find records of people arriving at a place, fighting as cavalry on horseback with a lance, but then dismounting and fighting on foot with a poleaxe. And you think, well, where did you get the poleaxe from? Where did you keep it when you're on the horse? Because you're holding a lance. It's not like you can just wear a poleaxe. They're massive and heavy. And usually you kind of think, well, probably they've got servants in tow or whatever. But what if you wanted to carry this on horseback with a saddle holster?
Well, that would absolutely work. And actually, although this one I've done with the fiddly screws and things, like I said, it was such a high status object, I suspect that it probably auto-deployed and just locked when you opened it. I couldn't see the mechanism. But if that was the case, then having gauntlets, gloves and things, that wouldn't be a problem that it would be like in this case here. So, who knows if that's true, but it is definitely a plausible reason for why you might want one. So actually, maybe it does have utility. I'll take it all back.
It's a nice idea to think of a 16th century Italian mercenary hopping off his horse, casting his last aside and deploying his flick knife version of a spetum.
But joking aside, if it is auto-deployed and it does all lock itself, which I think it probably did, it would be a flick weapon, wouldn't it?
And you have to remember as well, 16th century Italian mercenaries were often about looking cool, weren't they? And you think
Nothing
of the
cooler
you think of the German Landsknechts and all of their puff and slash clothing, and you think of someone hopping off their horse and it's like, wow, that guy means business.
Anyway, enough of that. Matt, thank you once again.
Thank you.
Bye. Really bye.